In this lesson, we'll explain how the protective tariff laws raised the issue of states' rights, summarize how Jackson destroyed the Bank of the U.S., and identify some of Jackson's economic policies and their impact on his successor. So we'll talk about the issue of nullification, and we're going to talk about the issue of the national bank. A tariff raises the states' rights issue. Nullifications theory. British tried to flood the United States with cheap goods. So in order to prevent that from happening and to try to get people to buy American goods, a tariff was raised in 1824 and in 1828. Vice President John C. Calhoun calls the tariff of 1828 the tariff of abominations because he disagrees with it. He thinks that the South is forced to pay for the North's prosperity, while the cotton prices are too low for the South. Calhoun devises the nullification theory. He questions whether it's legal for federal laws to apply their laws to the states. He also believes that the Constitution is based on a compact between the states, and that the states can reject a law it considers unconstitutional because it's the states that give the federal government its power. The states also have the right to leave the Union if nullification is denied. Hayne and Webster debate states' rights. Senator Robert Hayne argues the Southern view of the tariff, which is not positive, and states' rights. Senator Daniel Webster of Massachusetts defends the Union. Jackson believes that the Union must be preserved. John C. Calhoun disagrees with Jackson and resigns as Andrew Jackson's vice president. And Calhoun will go back to South Carolina and become a senator and will become the voice of the South. South Carolina is going to rebel at this point and declare the 1828 and the 1832 tariffs null and void. And they are going to threaten to secede from the Union, which means to break away from the United States. Congress passes the Force Bill, which authorizes the use of the Army and Navy against South Carolina to force them to remain in the United States. Henry Clay proposes the tariff that lowers duties over the next 10 years, which quiets the issue for now but doesn't solve it. This is a picture of John C. Calhoun. Jackson opposes the bank. Jackson vetoes the bill to recharter the Second Bank of the United States. He presents the bank as a privileged institution that favors wealthy people. Jackson felt the bank had too much power, and he called it the monster bank, which you can clearly see here in this picture. He said, "I will kill the bank before it kills me." Jackson is going to attack the bank, and he's going to try to bankrupt it. So what he does is he takes the federal money out of the Bank of the United States and puts it into state banks, which are loyal to the Democratic Party. These were called pet banks. The Bank of the United States president, Nicholas Biddle, tries to save the national bank, but it fails, and the national bank does not survive. The Whig Party forms at this point because some people are unhappy with Jackson. They believe in the American system, and Henry Clay and Daniel Webster will be founding members of the Whig Party. Martin Van Buren will have a difficult time dealing with Andrew Jackson's legacy because he wins the 1836 election with Jackson's support. The pet banks that Andrew Jackson that had moved the money from the National Bank into was printing banknotes in excess of the gold and silver that they had. The government is going to begin to demand specie, which is gold and silver, to pay for public lands. People panic, and they're going to rush to exchange their paper money for gold and silver when the banks stop accepting paper money. This causes what's called the Panic of 1837. Banks are closing, the credit system collapses, people lose savings, and businesses become bankrupt. More than 1/3 of the population is out of work. Martin Van Buren tries unsuccessfully to solve the economic problems that were caused by some of Jackson's financial decisions. These issues are very similar to the issues that we've had in the United States in the past 3 to 4 years. And you can clearly see in this graph, the Panic of 1837, you can see the stock market index, and as it declines as it goes through the Panic of 1837. Harrison and Tyler. Whig William Henry Harrison beats Van Buren in the 1840 election. Harrison is going to enact a Whig program to try to revitalize the economy, but unfortunately, he dies 1 month into his presidency after giving the longest inauguration speech in history outside without his coat on. He becomes very sick with pneumonia and dies, and then is succeeded by his vice president, whose name is John Tyler, who is seen here. Tyler opposes many parts of the Whig economic plan, and nothing is really resolved at that point as well. So the economic problems that they have continue for a little while into Tyler's presidency as well.